Hello everyone, this is Ruchi, a team member of Flutter Kolkata, and me, along with Saurabh, Sharad, and Shashwat, welcomes you all for today's event. The speaker of which is Mr. Abhishek Doshi, and topic for today's event is learning BLoC in Flutter. So, first of all, let me introduce the speaker for today's session, Abhishek, who is also an organizer of Flutter Valsad and a co-organizer of Flutter India. He has participated in almost more than 50 hackathons and has mentored more than 20 and just around more than 10 hackathons till date. He has also been a winner of Voice Talks India. He was a semi-finalist in Build for Digital India, which was being organized by Google India, and he has created a Flutter package called Connectors, and he wants to share his views regarding the blog, which he's going to share with all of us. So, hello Abhishek, you may continue now.
Hello, Ruchi. Thank you so much for such a
Thanks
wonderful
for joining us.
introduction. So let
Thank
me
you.
start by, yeah, let me share
Yeah,
my
the screen
screen.
is yours, Abhishek.
Yeah, so the screen is visible.
Yes,
Okay, cool. Okay, so the PPT is visible, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So as Ruchi mentioned, my introduction. So let me just summarize it. I am a Flutter developer, hackathon enthusiast, and Flutter World organizer. And today's topic is introduction to BLoC. So before we start with BLoC, what is state management? So as we all know that Flutter has stateful widgets, right? We have both stateless and stateful widgets. And if we have stateful widget, it becomes a responsibility to manage the state. So we have heard a lot that we have state in Flutter, we need to manage it. But what is exactly state? So basically, state is the information that can be read synchronously when the widget is built and might change during the lifetime of the widget. So in layman terms, if we define state, state is the property of our widgets that might change during the life cycle of our application. So let's say if we have a counter application, then the value of the counter can be a state. Then the theme of our application can be a state. So we need to manage it throughout our application. So why state management? So if the data changes or new data is being added, then and only then the request to the server will be sent if we are managing the state. Yeah. So whenever why we need to manage the state. So basically, whenever the data changes, our UI needs to be updated based on the data that is being changed. So for that, we need to manage the state. Also, state management helps to centralize and maintain our code very easily because it improves the quality of code by reducing the code size and making it more readable as well. So, what are the methods for state management? First is set state. Yeah, that's true. Set state is also a state management method. It is the simplest state management method which we use in daily, like we use that regularly. It just helps us to rebuild our widget tree when and whenever we require. Next is inherited widget. We have rarely used this because this is the low key widget and low level approach where like every state management package depends on this widget for the state management. It directly helps us to communicate between the ancestor and children in the widget tree. The next is provider. This is one of the simplest state management package and it is officially recognized by Flutter team also. It uses inherited widget under the hood. As I said that every state management package will be using inherited widget as its base. So my philosophy is that if you become proficient in any one of the state management, others are easy to learn. So if you know provider, you can easily learn BLoC. If you know BLoC, you can easily learn any other like Redux, Mobax, GetX, and there are many such state management tech packages that are available. So you can easily learn them if you know the basics of state management. So what is BLoC exactly? So basically, BLoC stands for Business Logic Components. Here, our main aim is to divide our business logic and the UI part separately so that it becomes independent of each other. BLoC basically uses the concept of inherited widget. As I said, all the packages would be using the concept of inherited widget. Now we can implement BLoC using stream and sync, but we already have a package called Flutter underscore BLoC, which is a wrapper of stream and sync and which allows us to proficiently implement BLoC in our application. So before we start with BLoC, there are some terminologies: event, state, BLoC provider, BLoC builder, BLoC listener, and BLoC consumer. So what is an event exactly? Event is anything that we would fire from our application. So let's take the example of counter application. So the increment functionality that we see, that will be the event that we will be fine. Like when the user clicks on the add button, increment event would be fire. Then if we have a decrement button, then it will be having a decrement event. So in general term, if we say, then any state management, any app which has any app which has the functionalities, that would be its events. So like if we consider the login functionality, then login would be an event. If we consider logout functionality, then logout would be an event. Similarly, what is state? State is basically whenever we fire an event, our application would go from one state to another state. Like let's say if we are using login as an event, then first would be like loading, as the API call would be there. So that loading would be a state. Then whenever the user is successfully logged in, then successful, let's say successful is the state. So basically, whenever we fire an event, there will be multiple states, one or more states that would be happening into our application. Now, these two are the common terminologies. BLoC provides four widgets actually: BLoC provider, BLoC builder, BLoC listener, and BLoC consumer. So, what is BLoC provider? BLoC provider is basically a widget that would provide our BLoC class to the entire subtree of our widget tree. Like if we wrap BLoC provider to the material app, then the BLoC would be provided to the entire tree. Then we have BLoC builder. BLoC builder is basically like depending on the state of our depending on the state, we can change the UI. So BLoC builder is basically responsible for changing or rebuilding your UI. BLoC listener. BLoC listener is mostly used when you want to show something. Like if you don't want to rebuild your UI, but you want to show, let's say, a toast or a snack bar, depending on the change of state, then you can use BLoC listener. Now if your application has the functionality, like you want to do both, like change this show snack bar for some of the state and rebuild the UI for some of the state, so you would be having BLoC builder and BLoC listener both in your application. So to reduce the code, we can directly use BLoC consumer, which has the functionality of both BLoC builder and BLoC listener. I hope this is clear till now. If you have any questions still here, you can unmute yourself or ask in the chat section, because this is the main basic terminologies for BLoC.
Can you be clear of this block builder, listener, and consumer?
Okay, sure. So let's say you, as I said, that we have a counter event, right? So let's say after the value is incremented, you want to change the UI accordingly. Like you want to display the incremented value. So the update of the UI would be done by the BLoC builder. So BLoC builder is basically responsible for the rebuilding of your UI, and BLoC listener is just, it won't be responsible for rebuilding. It would just show, it will be just used to show a snack bar or a toast kind of thing, like which doesn't rebuild your UI. And block consumer is both, like block builder plus block listener equal to block consumer. I hope now it's clear.
Yeah, yeah.
Why do you prefer it over set state every time?
Okay, so set state, let's say you can just access from one page, right? Let's say you have two pages. You want to update the UI, like we have two pages, one for increment and second for decrement. Now, whenever the user increments the value, you want to change the value on the second page also. And whenever the user decrements the value, you want to change the value on the first page also. So on the same page, you can do it using set state, but it won't be possible to change the value on the second page using set state, right? So in that condition,
Uh,
you
what
have,
if you
yeah,
what if you pass it as a counter to the second class and then use it in the init state of the second class?
yeah, exactly. That
So
was what I saying. That we can do either thing. Like whenever we navigate to the next class, we can pass it as a parameter, right? But that comes only for one value. But what if we have an entire object, or what if we have multiple objects, and we just have, here we have two screens. Now let's say we are moving from second screen to third screen also. So in all the screens you will need to pass the value. Now it has happened in some cases that when you pass the value, sometimes it may get dropped, and the value from first page doesn't reach to third page. Also, one more thing happens is that every time it creates a new instant. Like if you are just passing integer value, then on first page it would create new instant, on second page it would create new instant, and on third page it would create new instant. So for every page it would occupy memory for the same value. So that's not something an app developer would be fond of, right? So that's the main reason that we need to manage state, and we don't prefer passing the values from one pages to another pages. One more approach is there. You can definitely initialize the value as a global parameter, but that's also not preferable, as anyone can access those parameters then. Okay, so I hope your question was been answered by me.
if I have an app that I've already built in set state, like it's a big app, is it worth it converting the entire code to block then?
Yes, you can definitely move it to block. I would show that. We would also do coding right now. That how easy it is to convert to block. You just have to wrap your UI part in block builder, because block would be completely separate thing. And wherever you are calling your function for the functionality part, there you just have to add the event. So I would show that also. Okay, so this is a simple drawing that I have created. Let's say you have a pipeline, which we name as block pipeline. From the UI part, you send the event, and from the block, you get the state as the output. So whenever you are doing any functionality, whenever you are changing any functionality, or performing any functionality, you have to fire the event, and in return, you will get a state. So this is the main concept of block, that you just have to fire the event from one side, and you will get state as the output from the other side. So all right, that's enough. Let's start coding. I would Let's convert our basic the counter application into block. So yeah, because I have already created the main.dart. It just has, the material app and scaffold, and I've already added the two packages. You need to add two packages. One is Flutter underscore block, and second is equatable. So Flutter underscore block is our main package for block. Equatable is basically used for comparison of objects. Like let's say you want to compare the state, right? Because we will be working on state. So you will need to compare that which state is this. So for that we will be using equatable. We can't use like state equal equal. login state, successful state, because that would just compare the instance of it. So that's the reason equatable is used. Now this is just our main.dart, and if I show you how would it would look, it's just a white screen right now. Yeah, so it's just white screen right now. Now let's just create a folder for screens, and I'm naming it as page underscore one dot dart and page underscore two dot dart. Okay. Now in our first page, there would be a floating action button for incrementing the value. In the center, there would be an increment button. Sorry, the text which will be incrementing. Okay, so I have just returned one, like I haven't written anything right now in our page one dot dart. It's just a stateful widget which returns the container. So let me change it with default, give it app bar, and we will be having a button in the app bar to navigate to the next page. So let me just add icon button in the action part. And in the on-press, currently we are not doing anything. I would change it once we implement our second page. So currently it just looks like there is one app bar with the name and action button on top. On top of that, it does nothing. Now let's add our floating action button. So this will be doing addition of our value, like incrementing the value. Now in the body, we just have a center widget with a child or text as its child, and here we would be incrementing our value. So currently we haven't done anything, just created the UI. Let me just quickly int value equal to 0. Currently we aren't implementing the BLoC part. I am showing how we can convert our normal application into the BLoC. So yeah. Okay. So our main UI is ready. Let's see if it works. Perfect. It works, right? This is basic our counter application that also comes when we create a new project. Now in our second page also we want the same thing. We just want, instead of incrementing, we want decrementing over there. I'm just copying this part and pasting it in page 2, renaming the class name. Okay. So in this, we would do that passing value from one page to other page. And from our, yeah, on pressed, we would navigator dot. Okay. So this is how the passing would work, right? Simply, we will be passing our value from first page, that is from here, to our second page, and it would display in the center. So let's see that. Okay,
It
so
should be minus on the second page, right?
yeah, I haven't changed the UI. I'm just seeing if we pass how it would react.
Oh,
Yeah. So in the center we have 14 as the value, right? And when we pass, we do have 14. So that works perfectly. Now let's see if we what happens if we decrement it and and don't pass it back. Now we do have 19 in the center. We subtract it. On this page, the functionality works perfectly. But when we move back to our first page, it's still 19, right? So we haven't managed the state over here. So as one of you said that we can send it back to the previous page. So yeah, definitely we can do that. And yeah, let's do that. Okay, so we have passed back our value. and let me just show you if it really works or not. So you can see there is an error. Set state callback argument returned a future, because it won't work, because uh, set state won't wait for the value to be returned back. Now, if we really want to do this, we can do one thing, like calling set state after the value is being returned. Okay, so currently we have 22, incrementing it to 23, moving it 23, decrementing it to 21, and back. Yeah, it perfectly works, right? But what issue there would be if we do this? Like, let's say from this we have multiple text over here. Like we have one for increment, and we have just a static text over here that says the value is. Now whenever we move back from our second page to first page, the entire UI will be rebuilding, and the upper static text that doesn't need rebuilding, right? So set state would directly call our build function to rebuild the UI. It won't be rebuilding the only that part which is using the value. So that's one of the reason why set state shouldn't be used much. And second, let's say we have like five cards over here stating the values, and from the second page we are incrementing or decrementing some value, and only that card must rebuild, right? But set state would rebuild the entire screen. It will rebuild all the five cards, so that's a bad practice. So yeah, this is the main reason why we shouldn't be using set state much frequently. We are definitely going to use, but only when and where it is really required. Now let's implement the same thing using BLoC. So I have installed one extension for BLoC. I guess it's, I don't know. Yeah, it's just BLoC by Felix itself. Felix is the developer of BLoC pattern. So just click on your folder, BLoC, new BLoC, and name it. And all the three files, as I said, we have event and state in the block, and this counter underscore block would be our main file that would handle the block part. Now let's implement the uh, our main events. So our both events, that is increment value and decrement value event, would take one parameter, that is integer variable, that we want to increment. So we have created our event file. This is the only thing we have in the events. If your application is big one and that might contain many events and multiple blocks also. Now let's implement the states. There will be only one state, that is counter success, and this will take one parameter, that is our final value, that is like incremented or decremented value. Our state is also ready. Now we just have to implement like what to do when a particular event is fired. So we can implement that in our map event to state function. This returns a stream that is basically BLoC. Whenever we use BLoC builder, it creates a stream that is continuously listens to the change of state. So that's what stream would do in BLoC. So let's say if we get event is, so this is part is basically from equatable. We can't use like this, like event equal to at initial value, and this is not possible. Yeah, see you we are getting a warning. Equality operator invocation with references of unrelated types. You see, that's the reason we have to use is over here. Now, yield is basically to yield any state, like to tell the stream that this state has been sent from our block. So, whenever our first initial value event is fired, we would be sending our counter every time. We would be sending our counter value, counter success state, where we would pass the value as 0 for the initial one. Now, if event is increment event, now you can access the value of the as we implemented when we implemented this, we have added one value parameter over here. So to access this value parameter, you can access it using the event parameter over here, because this would become like if event is increment value event, then we will be able to access its value, event dot value. And if it is decrement event, yeah, so in the increment we will send incremented value like +1 of what the original value is, and in decrement we would send the decrement of the original value, like -1 of the original value. So we have implemented our BLoC also. Now we have to implement this BLoC, like convert our UI using this BLoC. So first thing is to wrap our main.dart, like our home, and from in main.dart we need to wrap this with BLoC provider. So this would provide our entire widget tree with the counter BLoC. And you can specify here the type if you wish. That's optional. It's good to specify because in future if you have multiple block, you will be using multi-block provider. So yeah, this is we have provided the entire widget tree with our counter block. So from page 1 or from page 2, counter block will be accessible. So now in let's create the mm, object of our counter block. So in the init state, we will have to give the this is just the declaration, right? We need to initialize our counter block. So for initializing, we have block provider. You just have to do block provider dot off context and provide the type of the block. So we have initialized our counter block, and we want that whenever the init state is executed, we want our initial value. So if we want to fire any event, we have to use add function, add method for it, and we can pass the whichever event we want. So here we are going to call the get initial value event. So this is done. Now it's part of now we have to wrap our body with block builder, because this is our main UI part. Only this thing is going to change. So let's say if you have multiple things, like we have this text, we have another text in below this, and you don't want to change that, then you just have to wrap this text with block builder and keep that text as it is. Now in the builder part, we can check which state we are getting. Like if state is counter success, then we want to return this thing, else we want to return the other thing. Like if let's say if we are having multiple states, so if states is, let's say, counter loading, which we haven't defined here, but if you have this, then you can return a circular progress indicator over here. Now, if we don't use block and if we just use set state, then we will have to maintain a Boolean variable, right? That until the data is available, until the data is not available, show circular progress indicator. Once the data is available, you would change a Boolean variable and it will show the main UI. Now, the builder actually requires compulsory one widget to be returned. Now, as this is in the if condition, we need to specify any one widget that we will have to return by default. Now, you can definitely use here container or whatever thing. You can also like just use return text that the value is loading or something. And now the value, that is the incremented value, we can access that using the state variable, state dot value. So in our first page, the block is implemented. Now we just have to fire the increment event whenever our floating action button is clicked. So this won't need set state. You just have to add the event. And also, I forgot that we will have to, like, as we are going to pass the current value to our increment value event, we will have to first set it whenever we encounter the success part. Let's say whenever the state is success, we assign our state dot value to our local value parameter. Now, if we were not going to use our block, then to to assign this, we will be having to wrap this in set state. However, in block builder, we don't have to do that because it is going to manage the flow of our UI, and hence if we wrap it with set state, then an error would be thrown that block builder called set state called while building your UI when the UI is already building, something like that. Okay, so this is done. Let's say if increment works or not. Okay, so get initial value, we have got our 0. Now, I guess we made some error. Let me rerun the application because the code is perfect.
Okay. Yeah, if meanwhile the code is restarting, if anyone has any question, they can write in the comment section or they can answer directly to Abhishek.
What is the major difference between provider and block? Means,
Okay. Like there's no major difference. Both would be doing the same task, that is managing the state. But many people prefer block because it's like, the main logic of the application and the UI is separated. However, in provider, it's like wherever you perform the logic of the application, and in that part only you will be doing notify listener. So that becomes clumsy for some of the people. It's like always like it depends on people to people which state management they prefer.
I had a different doubt. Is it okay to use like material widgets for publishing on Apple Store? Like they like it's not against the rules or something, right? You can publish like apps like done with completely all material widgets, material this thing theme. Is
I
that
didn't
fine?
understand like what do you mean by
Like
material?
there are two things, right? One is material, and one is Cupertino. So
Yeah,
Cupertino is for iOS,
yes.
and this is material. Like we're building in material right now. So is it fine if I use all my material widgets? Because I think someone said earlier or something. I think it was wrong or something. That if you use like material app bar and all, your chances of getting rejected on the app store or something.
No, that's not the thing. I have published my I guess three of the applications, and they are all using material.
So yeah, for iOS store, right? It works, right?
I don't have idea for the iOS store, but Play Store doesn't reject it that way.
Oh, okay.
I guess maybe someone from the participants can answer that if they have published in the iOS store.
And how many days does it take to usually get published after buying like the developer thing?
For the and like Android store, it doesn't take much. Play Store usually takes I guess 7 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 7 days is enough. Like
Also, like I have a lot of packages. I'm using a lot of packages for my app. Is that okay? Like because a lot of packages are really good, and I have like 10 packages, 10 or 12 packages for the app. But
yeah, that
doesn't lag as such. Is that fine, right?
yeah, that's totally okay.
Okay.
Many people do say that packages shouldn't be used, but like if they are not heavy packages, you can definitely use them. And
Yeah.
if you feel like if any package is like multitasking, then what you can do is you can simply add like take the native code from that package,
Yeah.
yeah, and add it to your application.
So there's like a weird doubt, but some of the packages have Chinese code in them. Like the comments are all in Chinese. That won't get anything banned, right?
Yeah, that may happen.
So you might get banned for using Chinese code or something.
Mm, yeah, maybe. No, like it usually doesn't.
Mhm.
Okay, so my app is running now. Yeah. Okay, so the increment is perfectly working. Now we just have to implement the same thing in our second page. Now, what was the issue? Let me also tell that we didn't mark the our class as immutable, and due to that, the value wasn't changing in both, like state and event. In both, I didn't mark it as immutable, and that was the main reason that the value wasn't changing. Okay, so this is where we are moving to our second screen, right? So in this, we don't have to like do the await and all thing, and we don't even need set state. But whenever we push, we need to provide this page the BLoC what is it BLoC instance. So one option is to pass the entire instance, but that would be same like passing our value. So we do have one widget block provider dot value, and we just have to wrap our page with the block provider dot value and pass our counter block as the value parameter, so that we can initialize we can do the same thing in init state. And here we are not going to call the initial value because we would be needing the success part, right? The incremented value, and we don't want it. In floating action button, we will call our decrement functionality. Yeah, we are doing here the same thing that we did in first page, that is calling the decrement value event and passing the current value. Now we will be wrapping the body with the block builder and do the same thing. If the state is success, if the state is success, set the local value to the value that we have got from the state and display the UI. And here we would be displaying our local value. Now let's see the output. The current value is 23. Let me just increment it to 25 and move to the next page. Here we are getting the original value, that is 25, like the previous value. Let me decrement it to, okay, hot load. Yeah, decrement it to 22, 21, 20. Go back. Here also it is 20. Again increment it to 23. Here you can see it's 23, increment 22. So yeah, we have successfully implemented our counter example using BLoC, and you can see in the entire application we haven't used set state anywhere, even in our first page, not in our second page. So that's the main benefit of BLoC, that only that part, like if you have status counter loading, that only that part would be executed. If you have different state, then only that part of the UI would be executed. So that is the best part of BLoC. Yeah, I guess if anyone have any questions, they can definitely ask, because that was it from my side. The coding is done. And yeah, definitely you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, GitHub. Everywhere it's Abhishek Doshi 26, or you can check out my website also. Mm. Any questions from your side?
Uh, Feel free to ask any questions. Like Shashwat has some questions, so he can ask. And Shashwat, can you?
Yeah, so I had a
Yeah.
question about the disadvantages of using BLoC. Actually, uh, I generally use provider. So, so are there any disadvantages to BLoC that I'll face during changing over to this one?
Yeah, I have faced one disadvantage, that is like if you have a single block but you have multiple functionalities. Like let's say you are including all registration and login in a single block, and you are using the same block everywhere. So that creates a different behavior, like because the entire application would be listening for the same state changes, and that would create a different behavior in the UI, and how it would be rendered. So yeah, that's a disadvantage, but however we have the solution for that. You can definitely change the block, like keep login block separate and keep registration block as separate, and that would be the solution for that. So that won't happen, like that the UI won't be conflicting with the state. And some of them many finds that this creates a boilerplate code, because like we need to add three files. One is counter, block, state, and event. However, in the provider side we can just create our main logic file, and in that only extend with change notifier and notify listeners. So yeah, that can also be counted as disadvantage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Shashwat. Thanks, Abhishek. We have an announcement to make, but before that, can everyone please come show your faces so that we can have a screenshot of all of us who have joined the session? Hi, Shashwat. Hi,
Hi.
Abhishek.
Hi.
Yeah. So can anyone can everyone turn on their cameras for just a moment? We'll take a screenshot and then we can announce and then we can conclude this session. Hi, Dipin. Thanks.
I can't show my face, but I can show a panda. Is that fine?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, that's nice.
I can show dash.
Hey, how did you get that?
Dash.
How do you get that? Like the Flutter goodies and stuff. How do you get the Flutter T-shirt and stuff?
As I am the organizer of Flutter Valsad, so that was the main reason.
Oh, okay.
Anyone else would like to join?
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Ruchi.
Yeah. Hi, Ruchi. Thanks
So-
for joining.
I think we all should thank Abhishek for explaining facts related to BLoC and settling our queries.
Thank you so much.
Let's take a screenshot then. Wait, we have Dipen also with us. Where is it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, hi there. Hi Dipen. Just 1 minute. Thank you everyone, guys. Shashwat has a small announcement to make. Shashwat, can you go ahead?
Yeah, so we'll be introducing our LinkedIn page for Flutter Kolkata. So I'll be sharing the link for the page. We'll be updating all the events and all the small things, updates and the things over there. We are also coming up with small content videos and stuff like that. So be updated, follow our page for more. Yeah, so I'll be sharing the link on the. Also, there is a feedback link. Please do fill up that and let us know what we have to change and what we have to update about our.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Abhishek. It was great to
Thank you so
listen and
much.
learn from you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks everyone, and wishing everyone good luck for upcoming projects and events.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.